Today I'm going to recap a 2021 action movie titled Jolt. Be ready for spoilers ahead. The movie begins with Lindy Lewis, a young girl suffering from intermittent explosive disorder, which makes her react with violent rage to even minor provocations. This condition is linked to her body's unusually high cortisol levels, giving her enhanced strength and speed. Her parents, unable to manage her violent outbursts, decided to have her institutionalized. When the institution failed to manage her, they placed Lindy in the army, a move that also proved ineffective. Finally, Lindy undergoes an experimental but effective treatment, a self-administered shock therapy delivered through an electrode vest that she must wear constantly. This treatment allows her to live a normal life. Lindy's therapist and the designer of her shock vest, Dr. Ivan Munchin, encourages her to go on a date. He believes this will help test her ability to have a healthy, normal social relationship. Lindy agrees to go out with an accountant named Justin. Although she almost canceled at the last minute, she decided to give it a try because Justin seemed like a charming person. During their date, a waitress repeatedly ignored Justin's meal requests, which frustrated Lindy. However, she managed to activate the vest once again to stay calm. When Justin senses unusual behavior, Lindy walks to the ladies' room to calm herself, but to her surprise, she overhears the waitress making fun of Justin in the restroom. Lindy has to press her best button in every sentence the waitress utters to pull her out of the fantasy before leaving. The waitress utters one line that ignites Lindy's fury, outrageously storms into the waitress's cubicle and bangs her head against the wall until she passes out, and Lindy vanishes into the crowd. The following morning, Lindy visits the therapist to fix the switch on the vest. As soon as she enters the office, the therapist Munchin takes out his gun to point at her. He wants Lindy to put on the handcuffs and stay far away from him. The therapist knows exactly how dangerous this woman can be. So he takes all kinds of safety measures before the sessions begin. When the therapist taps on his table a few times, Lindy becomes enraged and fantasizes about brutally killing him. However, she understands she is doomed without the therapist, so she fights to contain her anger. Munchin advises Lindy to pursue a real relationship with Justin, but she fears that she will murder the innocent man. Despite this, she takes the therapist's advice and contacts Justin for a second date in the evening. As love sparks between them, Lindy finds herself reminded of the ex-boyfriends who have consistently bullied her. Justin does not mind Lindy's advice, he reassures her that their relationship will work. Lindy is very touched by his earnestness and gladly spends a first hormone night with him. The next morning Justin gives Lindy a camera, and she is deeply touched by his thoughtful gift, expressing her gratitude when he asks about her medical equipment. She reluctantly explains her disorder. Lindy wants him to stay longer, but Justin has to return to his job as an accountant. Before leaving, he invites her to dinner at his place, which makes her incredibly excited. Lindy goes back to the therapist and updates him on her successful date, hoping that her boyfriend will help her overcome her disorder. Lindy confidently says she will not need the device anymore. It is clear that Lindy has fallen in love with her new boyfriend and she places much hope in this relationship. The therapist is now worried that Lindy's love may blind her and lead her into trouble. But Lindy is not ready to hear him out and kisses him goodbye. She walks happily on the streets, taking pictures with the new camera Justin gifted her. While Lindy is preparing for dinner in the evening, she receives a message from Justin informing her that he might be late. When she tries to call on his mobile, Detective Vickers answers, informing her that Justin was murdered. Lindy goes to the police station, where Vickers tells her that Justin's body was found in a dumpster with 2 head gunshots. Saddened by the news, Lindy replays her time with Justin and requests to see her boyfriend one last time, only to find her request denied. Enraged by the denial, Lindy envisions punching and shooting both homicide detectives, but instead, she repeatedly presses the vest to shock herself, which helps her calm down. Lindy turns to the graveyard to mourn over her boyfriend, as she cannot get over thinking about him and the good time they had together just a few days ago. In frustration, Lindy turns violent and pins her therapist to the table, complaining to him about her boyfriend's death. She attempts to press the vest button, but the electric shock is no longer effective for her, so the therapist gives her a jab of sedative. After a while, Lindy wakes up and insists she needs to find out who murdered Justin. The therapist advises her to let it go and allow the police to do their job, warning that it could change her irreversibly. Disregarding his advice, Lindy contacts the detectives, feigning to have additional information about Justin's murder. This ploy aims to extricate them from the evidence room so she can access Justin's murder files. Lindy then heads to Justin's house and finds his phone. Detective Vickers calls her, informing her that they know where she is and that Detective Nevins is on the way to arrest her. Nevins tries to shoot her, but Lindy manages to beat him up and escape racing Justin's sports car. Following a brief car chase, the detectives get involved in an accident that injures Officer Vicker. After Lindy escapes, she hires a hacker to access her boyfriend's cell phone and discovers that the last 7 incoming calls are from Barry Kaspersky, a notorious gangster, indicating that her boyfriend was not an ordinary accountant. Upon discovering that Barry is in an abandoned building overseeing an underground fight, Lindy confronts him and demands to know who killed Justin. Barry agrees to tell her only if she fights and wins his top 3 fighters simultaneously. Lindy emerges victorious in the fight. However, Barry withholds any information about the culprit and attempts to harass Lindy while they are in his car. His heinous motive tests Lindy's patience to the point where she finally loses control. She manages to incapacitate both Barry and his gunman, then threatens him with jumper cables to get him to talk. At last, Barry reveals that his boss, named Gareth Faisal, was the one who ordered Justin's murder. However, he claims that Faisal is an evil cabal and it is not a wise choice to go after him. Despite getting the warnings, Lindy is not backing down. She electrocutes Barry with the jumper cables. Detective Nevin visits Vicar in the hospital to warn him about Lindy's history of violence and assault due to her anger issues. Once Nevin leaves the room, Lindy appears and thanks Vickers for warning her earlier. She informs him that she has identified the murderer and requests that he arrest Faisal. However, Vickers explains that they can't act without evidence, and when he asks her why she is so determined to find Justin's killer despite only knowing him for a few days, Lindy explains that he was the only genuinely kind person she had ever met. Vickers, moved by her concern, gives Faisal's address but warns her not to go alone. Nevin arrives and tries to arrest Lindy, but she manages to escape from him again. Finally, Lindy arrives at Faisal's building, where his head of security, Delacroix, knocks her out. Lindy awakens in the room painted white, with her electrode vest removed and her hands tied to a chair. Delacroix threatens her, but he sends her back to her apartment without taking any further action. In the vehicle, Lindy requests a light, but the driver does not entertain her request. At last, she attacks him, causing the car to stop in the middle of the road. Lindy runs into the therapist's office to try get her a new electrode vest. When the therapist sees Lindy, he reaches out for his gun and orders her to sit down. He promises her that he can create a new vest, but she must stop chasing the mafia boss. Conversely, Faisal learns about Lindy through his security guard. The billionaire gets greatly disturbed by the information, then gives orders to Delacroix to eliminate her. Lindy ignores her therapist's advice and gets her new vest right to her apartment. She notices that someone has been inside, so she sneaks in through the window and discovers that Faisal men have rigged an explosive device on her doorway. Lindy manages to disarm it, modifies the bomb, and places it in the microwave oven. Lindy's only treasure in the empty apartment is the camera, which her boyfriend gifted her. But as she leaves the building, she runs into Detective Vickers. He wants to arrest her for her safety but gets distracted when her flat explodes, allowing her to disappear again. Vickers calls, trying to persuade her to let the authorities handle Faisal, but Lindy is convinced they won't arrest him and decides to continue the pursuit on her own. As she climbs further, Delacroix is waiting for her on the top floor with a gun. Lindy is brought into the building to meet the evil cabal, who is enjoying his meal. Faisal praises Lindy for her supernatural power and mentions that he wishes to study her. Lindy becomes so enraged that she wants to bash him up, only to find herself knocked out. Lindy regains her consciousness in the same white room when Delacroix is trying to drain her of blood. She breaks free from the rope of the chair and knocks him to the ground, forcing him to reveal the location of Faisal's secret room. Confronted by other guards, a battle ensues, and after defeating the security guards, Lindy walks in the billionaire's office, only to find that he has already been murdered. Lindy is shocked when Justin unexpectedly enters the room. She could not believe it because she witnessed his casket and burial. Justin reveals that he is a CIA agent who used her to get Faisal because the agency didn't want to get involved directly. He reveals that her therapist recommended her because he works for them and his research is funded by the CIA. Lindy becomes filled with rage after learning this truth. The man she so desperately misses has been setting up a trap to take advantage of her. Lindy can't resist killing him, but Justin is holding the vest that has been modified by the electric shock. The sadistic boyfriend enjoys seeing Lindy helpless. He repeatedly hits the button to torture her. Gradually, Lindy adjusts to the intensity of the electric shock, and when she manages to stand up, she throws a bag at him and detonates the flaming bomb. Shortly thereafter, Lindy confronts Dr. Munchin and accuses him of manipulating her for his personal gain. The therapist apologizes, claiming he was unaware of Justin's plan. Vickers and Nevin arrive to find Lindy pressing Dr. Munchin against the wall. The police fear that she might kill him, so they shoot her in the leg, but they soon realize she was handcuffing him over for arrest. Vickers, impressed by her determination, help transport her to the hospital and tell her to claim that in all the cases she acted in self-defense to avoid any sentence. They then return her electrode device which they had confiscated earlier. Upon Lindy returning to her damaged apartment, she is visited by a mysterious woman who reveals herself to be Justin's superior. She explains that Lindy has been under the CIA's surveillance for years and they want to recruit her to use her talent to take down bad people. The movie ends with Lindy feeling the outbursts of her anger and the woman activating the electrode vest. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos like this.